going on? It's your boy Evans Wang. Ha 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 ha. You ready for another exciting lecture on one-to-many? You ever hate when YouTube videos start like that? You're like trying to find something and it's all like, hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, blah, blah. No? All right, whatever. Ironically, it's going to start like that. So just watch it at like 1.5, 1.75, 2 speed. All right, so what do we know the world so far, right? In terms of what do we know and understand about Ruby and Ruby classes, all right? What can we do in terms of like objects, right? Mike went over everything is an object, right? He went over this. Yep. But what does that really mean? Let's keep it, you know. We could send them messages. I think that's the messaging he wanted you to get, right? Yeah, we could send them messages. And they can, in fact, perform actions, right? They can execute methods. Cool? Does that make sense? So I'm just going to dive like 2 seconds into what that really means. And that is, who's seen like this type of data structure before? What is this? If I were to call class. Wow, what a loud class. Cool. So I can also call something called this, right? What is this? Huh? What are ancestors? Like in real life, I guess, if you don't know what ancestors are.
Programming for like inheritance, a class above array.
Right. So in Ruby, there's a concept called inheritance, and we will go into that. There will be a separate lecture. But all that means is that there is some sort of parent class, right? And all the methods in that class can get transferred down to their children class in the same way that like DNA from your parents get passed down to you. Yeah? So if I were to call ancestors, it looks like this array gets a lot of their methods from an enumerable class or module. Something from object, kernel, and basic object. All right? I can do the same thing with 1. Right? And this inherits from something called integer, numeric, comparable, object, kernel, basic object. Right? Right? Some string, like some string. Cool. All right, what's the class? Cool. Cool. What's this going to give me? So everything inherits from something known as like the basic object, right? Almost everything you will ever be working with, right? Even like your hashes, hashes. They come from something called object, kernel, basic object. So when I say that everything in Ruby is an object, this is exactly what I mean, right? It's inheriting from something called object, right? And objects get messages, yeah? And objects can call methods, yeah? So like if I wanted to, I could do something like array.new, right? And then I could just give it like 1, 2, 3. No? Can I do this? 12 is fine. Right? Is that cool? Yeah? So like, can I do something like that? Bam! Right? So what is this really saying?
Create an instance of the array class that has 12 elements, which are a string containing character 3.
Yeah, for sure. Right? It's a array. I'm instantiating a new instance of the array class, and I'm making 12 items in that array a string 3. So another sexier way to write it is 12 string.new, right, with the argument of 3.
You need quotes. The 3 needs to be quotes.
What was the string? So you use those bits.
Boop, boop, boop. 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 Right?
Why do you use quotes if it's already defined as a string?
It's the way it takes arguments. It's the way it takes arguments. There's not a sexy answer for it. It's just that's the way it takes arguments, right? So Don't get wrapped around the axle here. This is not important. All I care about is you understand the concept that when I create an object, objects can create other objects, right? So if I were to go into this first element, and I were to grab that first element, index 0, and I were to call .class on it, what would it give me? String, right? So objects can create other objects. That's all I wanted to show you. That's all I have for you today. That's it. You're good? Thank you. Thank you. I heard them clapping, so I knew you wanted to get in on it. You guys are out of control. Any questions on objects creating objects? No? Cool. So we have objects can create other, can create other objects, right? Yeah? So what do we know about something called class? Besides like sitting in one with this like bright sun beaming on you. What do we know about classes? What is a class in Ruby? Yeah? Type of object that has methods, blueprint. What do you mean by blueprint?
Blueprint of an object.
So basically, it's like classes have things that are inbuilt to them that are inherent to the object that's instantiated when that class is called.
Did everyone get that?
What?
Exactly. Try again.
So it's like when you call, so a class, when you, like, feel like what it means that when you call an instance of a class, there are things that are integral to that class that exist in any object instantiated from that class.
It's like a blueprint to model an object after.
That's it. It's just like a model, a wireframe, a blueprint to store specific data. Right? It's just be generic. It's cool. You can never be wrong. It's like it's something in Ruby. I'm like, that is technically true. Yeah? Cool. So, what do we know about a class? How do we make a new instance of a class? How do we do that? We call this method called .new, right? And it takes arguments sometimes. Right? And what method does this call? Oops. All right. This is just like things that we know, right? I can also get access to the attributes within a class, right? I can like def attribute name, right? And then that would just be the attribute name, right? And I can end it.
Class.new, right? You mean like my class.new, for instance?
I'm just talking about like how to make one. If you want to be really technical, we could just call it class. Yeah? That's like really good, and that's like really specific. What you'll learn from me is concepts are more important than rote memorization. Don't memorize, you will fail. I'm just going to warn you. Just understand what's happening. As long as you can follow the lecture, and as long as you understand, like, hey, what's coming from what? Why does this make sense? Can I apply this to a different model? Can you call .new on any class that you make? Do you know what method it's calling? That's really all I care about. All right, and then what does initialize do, essentially? Yes?
Just as a quick aside, objects can create other objects and classes create other classes.
It's a very good question. What is a class in Ruby?
It's a blueprint. But
It's probably an object.
yeah, everything's an object.
So can objects create objects?
Sure.
Okay, great. So can a class create an object?
Sure.
Cool. Nice. You came up with that yourself.
Almost.
Nice. Good question, though. Anything else? Awesome, right? And then how can we refactor this, right? How can we get this in like a syntactical sugar, easier way? Right? This is just what is known as like a getter method. Because all it's doing is it's just getting the instance, right? So you can always do add a reader, right? And that just gets it. And then I can do this, right, params, and then equal the params. And then what is this? The setter. So this becomes like the writer now. And then if I write both, what am I doing? Yeah, right? So I know about accessors. Oops, a daisy. Yeah? Any questions on what they do, what they are? Right? Just be careful, right? Sometimes when you're like in the zone and you're doing the test, you're just trying to pass the test, think about what the tests are really asking you for. If it's asking you to access an instance variable, like, hey, I need you to write a method called attribute name, and I want it to return attribute name, but you already have the adder accessor there. Do you have to write any more code? Check. Yeah? What else do we know about Ruby? Right? We know about instance variables, right? Which is like denoted by this, right? So what other kind of variables do we know within the class? Right? And what's the difference?
Scope.
What do you mean by scope?
Instance variable is only accessible to when you call it on the instance. Of that class, but class variable is available to everything in them.
Anyone want to?
Instant methods are only available to specific instances of that class, whereas class variables are available.
Right. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it twice, so there's no confusion. Instance variables, instance methods on instances. Think of that as like one track. As like one track, nothing else gets on it. Right? Class variables, class methods get called on the class. Instance methods, variables on the instance. Class methods, class variables on the class. It's not designed to trick you. I'm going to ask you that a lot. Yeah? Any questions on the instances and the classes and the separation? Right? Like I'm gonna part the Red Sea like Moses. Just like they're different. Any questions on that whatsoever? So, let's just say I had something called class shul, right? For whatever reason. I have some initialized method, and it takes in just like a string of schools, right? So just bear with me. If I were to do school.new, right, what am I passing in here? Like an array of like schools, like Flatiron, right? And then like bummy schools like St. John's University, right? So far, so good? So, what is this right here? Is this a instance or a class? You sure? 100%. Tell him what he's won.
I feel like, well, because I mean, if it were an instance, you'd be putting it in putting a single school, and if for a class, you're listing.
Oh yeah, you're right. Let me do that. Let me get rid of this. Boop 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 boop. Let me just actually. You're right. There we go.
In that case, it should be instance.
Cool. Cool. Can instances take arrays? Alright, cool. Nice. I'm just trying to trick you. So good job. So yeah, this is just an instance, right? How do I know it's an instance? I called .new, right? So then what is this? What is this right here? It's the class, right? So I can only call class methods on this, and I can only call class variables on this, right? Any questions on that whatsoever? Nothing? Cool. So what we've been doing so far is we've been doing this, right? We've been passing in strings, right? So like let's just say, for example, I have a class called student, right? And in the initialize method, it just takes a name, right? So I have like student.new, right? And we'll have like, I don't know, someone really cool like Brooke, right? What is this right here? Class or instance? This is an instance, right? Instance of student. Check. So far, so good? So before, what we were doing is like in this school, right? We can have students, right? We can have like the name of the school, and then we can have an array of students, right? Like my boy J Cash, right? That's Johnny for those that don't know. And then like who else? I don't know, your boy, right? And then who else do we have in here? What? Shaboy? Boy, right? Something like this.
He does so many YouTube videos.
I live under a rock, apparently. I do not know who Shaboy is, but cool. All right. So, in this very way, right? So, like, I have like instance of school, so I'm just gonna put like a very generic statement like school 1, right? So, if I were to do school 1 dot students, right? What would I get? Actually, let me just do this. This just means like this is what it's going to return, right? So what am I going to get? I'm going to get this. Check. Yeah? All right, cool. Can I do, right? Huh? School 1 dot students, right? And then I were to call the first index of it, what would I get? I would get like my boy J Cash, right? Does J Cash, what kind of object is J Cash? What kind of data structure? Is it a hash, a string, an array, a fixed num? It's a string, right? So what can I call? What kind of methods can I call on this? That's an example of one. But what kind of methods? Can I call array methods on it? No, I can only call string methods on it, right? So what I want to do is get out of this world where I'm passing in strings, and I want to start passing in objects so that I can call actual attributes of that object. So for example, like in this class student, right? I have instance of student. That person has a name, and that person has the age, forever 21, right? Cool. She's an angel. And what else, right? Like attributes, like, I don't know, tall. She's pretty tall. Brooke, how tall are you? Wow. Okay, 69 inches, but we'll just put tall. Whatever, right? So, in this way, it's going to return J Cash, right? So, bloop, 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 right? Let me just do a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Oops, just kidding. I meant to do that. Right? Could I call things like name? Like dot name on this first object within the array of school students? Yes? Can I call like dot name? Like, is there an attribute dot name to this return value? No. But that's what I want though, right? I want to be able to access the attributes of the objects that are inside my other objects so that I can establish some sort of relationship so that I can eventually do something like, hey, school 1, tell me all your students. In that first student, I want that person's name. This is going to give me some sort of like no name method for string Jcache. Right? That's probably what it's going to say. Right? But what if instead of Jcache, right, I had something like instance of student. Right? I'm passing in this instance, right, student.new, right here, in the first object. Oops. Yeah. This is like the first thing in the array. This is no longer important. Right? Now, when I call .name, it's no longer Jcache, but what is it? It's like something weird like student number, just like a hash, whatever, and then there's like at name equal to like Brooke, right? And then there's like other things like age equals to 21, and then at, I don't know, like, yeah, height equals to tall. All right, that's what it's going to return. It's going to return this object to me. So if I have that object, can I call .name on it? Now this should, in fact, return me Brooke. Not Nook, sorry. They're close. They're close on the keyboard. Yeah? And that's how I'm establishing this relationship. I have a school, it's full of students, and each one of them, I can get their name, or if I wanted to, I can call their age, and it give me 21, right? So far, so good? So now I have established relationships. I have a student within a school, and no longer just this string. I'm trying to get out of string land and into object land. Right? It's a long journey, but you'll get there, I promise. Check? Cool. I said a lot of weird things. Just like agree with me. I'm going to say things like, do you get that? Up, down, north, south? Check, Roger? Check or hold?
We're assuming though that you defined name and whatever age as attributes in the student class.
I'm sorry, say again? Yeah. So like there's some sort of defined initialize method. There's also the adder accessor for like, so, all right, here we go, just for you. Boom, boom, right, name, age, boom, height, done, initialize. I should have just copied that, I'm lazy. And then I get rid of that, get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, no? And then I can do all of them. I'm not going to do it because I'm just going to waste your time. But you're checking? Tracking?
So then for the class school, where you would be calling that from, you would just put colon and then the student class.
Colon.
The adder accessor for class school. Like how would you call student, the class student into school?
What do you mean?
Without an adder accessor in the school class.
Okay, sweet. So I'll finish this for you. Right? So we have the name of the school, and we have an attribute called student. Right? There'll be some initialize method, and it'll take in a name, and it'll take in a student. Just kidding. Boom. Just like that. God. And then there's like name too. Sorry. Bloop. Bloop. Just because you wanted it. Yeah? Just gonna let that sink in for a second. This is not like full code. Again, I'm just trying to get you to understand the concepts. We will write cool code that actually works. It's not going to work. There's no ends in here. How many errors I'm going to get to this? It's going to be a nightmare to debug. I just want you to understand what's happening here. Right? Stop trying to finish the code. It's not important. We'll finish the code when we write the code.
Wait, question. Can you have a class definition inside of another class definition?
That is a very good question. Yes, we'll get into that later. That's inheritance. Yeah, this is not going to fully run, right? Initializing and school doesn't end. I'm all of a sudden defining student out of nowhere. This is just for you to like understand if I had these classes, I had this is what I'm supposed to be getting. All right, cool. Huh?
Would you be defining the student class within the school class? Yes.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No. If I define something within something else, all right, I'm essentially saying that like it's inheriting from school. That means that is student a type of school? You're like nodding your head, like no. The answer is no. Student is not a type of school, all right?
I'm not about like yes.
Yeah, I know. I was being silly. So yes, you'll learn about inheritance later, and you'll learn about super. I do that because this is like Super Mario. No, nobody. Cool. All right. So.
I got you.
All right, hey, cool. This is what we're going to actually learn today, right? So is everyone good on attr accessors, classes, initialize, new, right? Out of string land into object land, all right? Good? Tomorrowland has like a limited number of tickets, but object land, sign up anytime you want. I don't know much about Mario Land, but it's probably going to take place, if I had to take a guess, on March 15th. So anyways, now let's talk about objects, right? Objectives. Too many objects. Nobody March 15th? I'm sorry, March 10. March 10. I'll just give me 2 seconds, all right? March 10.
Oh, Mario, yeah.
I'd messed it up, that's why. Didn't have the effect I wanted, but apparently when I fixed it, nobody got it anyway, so that's fine. Cool. So here's what we want to learn today. What is one-to-many? That's like weird. And a concept called single source of truth, right? Has anyone heard of this? Single source of truth? Cool. Don't worry, after today, you'll hopefully get it. We're going to try to define model, domain modeling relationships, and what a one-to-many relationship is. And then I'm just going to leave this notes in here because I thought this was really good, and I want to make sure I got the verbiage right. So, what is a model? Who has heard the term before? In the back. Volleyball. Softball player. I can't remember your name. I feel terrible. Okay, cool. You want to try?
Sure. I mean, it's model like isn't the actual object. It's the, for lack of a better word, blueprint for that object.
Yes, we want to use the word blueprint, right? Because it sounds a lot like class. Yeah? So a model, just so you know, and I'm going to push all this code so you have it, so don't worry about copying it down. Right? A class whose primary responsibility is to store data. Nothing sexy. Right? So whenever I talk about models, right, I'm going to be talking about classes. Talking about practice. Not talking about the game, talking about practice. That's it. So whenever I say models, just think that I'm talking about classes. It's going to make more sense once we do it. But first I want to kind of expand the verbiage, the vernacular, and then we're going to start doing it. And I'm just going to start using these words so that you can start associating them with something that's real. Yeah? So what is like domain? When I talk about domain. It's not exactly the scope of model, but the domain really is like it's the subject matter of the, and I'm going to put this in quotes, right? Of like the problem, right? So whatever is going on, it's the subject matter. So a good example is like learn, right? The learn domain that you're all on, all right, is like online education. That's kind of like the problem it's trying to solve. Online education. That's where it resides. All right? It'll make more sense as you get into examples. So what is domain modeling? When I have like domains and I have models, what does that really mean?
Modeling the subject matter.
Yes. I'm creating models, right, or classes, right, for your domain to represent real or abstract ideas. This is going to make more sense, I promise you. Make sense to you, Johnny?
Everything makes sense.
You fixed the typo in the line 37 or enough because I'll read that later.
The subject matter or the problem.
Solves the problem, right?
Off the problem, you said off the problem, right? Not of the problem. It's a subject matter of the problem.
Thank you.
That'd be a little confusing.
That would be very confusing, right? The subject matter of the problem, yeah? So what relationships are, right? Or what? Besides complicated, they can be, yeah? It's basically how the models or classes, right, are connected to each other. So let's do that. All right, before we get to this one-to-many. All right, I have something called this awesome whiteboard web app, right, where I can start drawing. The reason I wouldn't draw on a whiteboard is because, like, for the purposes of recording the lecture, you can't actually see what I'm doing. You're just going to hear me talking. It's not going to make any sense. Cool. Any questions so far on that? So we have a lot of things, like, in the real world that represent, like, a one-to-many relationship, right? So I'm just going to give you a couple so you can kind of get an understanding of it. First thing is we have, like, I'm just going to draw this box because I'm a good artist, and that's how all artists start, obviously. We have something called a bank, right? That looks like I'm summoning a demon. And you have you. You crank that, right? What is the relationship between a bank account and you? Do you have one bank account? Do you have many bank accounts? Do you have a Swiss overseas checking account with $1 million in it? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Very good. You wish? Right? If you had a checking account, can you have another checking account?
Yes.
Okay. If you had a savings account, can you have another savings account? When you transfer money from your checking account to your savings account, it takes 3 business days. Right? No? I know it's 2018. That joke doesn't work anymore. Anyways, you can have more than one, right? So you can have many bank accounts. Right? Now, when you open that bank account, does that bank account belong to me? To your mom? To your brother, sister, uncle, nephew, cousin? The tall 21-year-old Brooke, your instructor? Who does it belong to?
You.
It belongs to you. So each one of these bank accounts belongs to you. This is just an illustration of the two models, bank account and you, and the relationship is a one to many. Yeah? Ooh, thank you. Thank you. My job is done. That's it. You're good. No more. No mas. All right? What about...
I mean, you can have a joint account.
You can have a joint account, but let's not get down the rabbit hole too much, right? What about, let's just take like a book, right? I'm just going to put B. God, I'm lazy. Right? And A for like bad author. Almost, right? Recording. You have book and author, all right? What would you say the relationship between book and author is? If you wrote a book, an author pens a novel, can that author write more than one novel? Or it's like one and done, that's it, like a one-hit wonder. You know what I'm saying? MC Hammer. You can have how many books?
Many.
Right. Cool. So this is like a many, right? And what about the relationship between a book to its author? Will that book be penned by anybody else? Let's not talk about collaborations. You know, let's not talk about that. But just in this scope here.
Yes. No, the one.
Right. So you have a one, uno, which is a dangerous game, right? And this is the many. Questions on this? One to many. Do you want another one? No? So you're masters of the one to many.
That's too many. Bro.
So one too many?
Yeah, one too many.
All right. So give me another one. What is another one to many? Just so I know that you know, and that we all know that you know. You know?
There's one of you giving us many examples of one to many.
That's real meta. That's real meta, right? So I'm going to draw this sweet box, right? And there's instructor, and there's students, right? So what is the relationship between instructor and students? One, right? Okay. Don't worry about like Mike Chang and Brooke and Matt over there. You belong to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Mother and children.
that could get like really tricky because then like stepmom or like adopted.
Analogies break down.
Analogies always break down. Fine, you're right. All right, so we got mom, and we have children, right? You could, if you wanted to, you could have many children, right, or none, and each one of those children like belongs to like the mom. Yeah, is that cool? What about this weird one? Let's just get crazy. Whoa, right? What about like, oh my God, you guys are cool and hip. Ever heard of something? It's like really popular right now, called Twitter. I don't know. It's like, it's really not. That definitely says tweet. Oh man, you know what? I'm just gonna put T, right? T. We all know what that is, right? Tweet. This class. And what can you do, right? Right? And you have a user, right? What is the relationship to a user and tweet? Yo, hint. We've been talking about all day. All of a sudden quiet. It's one to many, right? Like each one of these tweets belong to you. Even if someone else retweets it, it's still yours. I'm getting some like yeses, and a lot of other people like social media sucks, so they have no idea. Are you like following along with this? Raise your hand if you're like following along. Oh wow. Look at this participation, Johnny. Out of control. Champs, right? So this is like a one-to-many, right? So let's try building this out. You guys ready to build it? Okay, guess not. Just build it anyway, because I'm a tyrant. So one-to-many is what? How would you describe it?
It's just like, say, one object or model or class can have a plurality or a lot of relationships.
Exactly, right? It's a relationship describing a single model, right? Which is what? Tweet, user, bank account, user again. What else are we talking about? Instructor, student, right? There's a relationship describing a single model that contains or keeps track of other models, right? Like a squirrel, right? A squirrel, let's just say a squirrel's my model, right? And squirrels have nests, right? That's how they roll, right? They have nests. A squirrel can have many nests, and each of those nests belongs to the squirrel, right? Right? Like if Alvin had a bunch of nests, none of those nests belong to like Theodore, right?
Like squirrels have nests.
Or like Simon, right? Squirrels have many nests.
A dog can have many fleas.
A dog can have many what?
A dog has many fleas, and all fleas on the same dog.
Yeah. Within a certain scope, right? Fleas can like jump from like animal to animal. But for the time being, that flea definitely belongs to that dog.
Yes.
Kind of gross, but thank you for that, Johnny. Sin.
Add like a one-to-many to a one-to-many.
Ooh. I'll talk about that tomorrow. So yes.
That's like the genus species kind of thing.
Kind of yes, but we're gonna go more into it tomorrow. All right. So I'll just drop a little hint here, right? One too many, right? And then another one too many. Sounds like a.
Add the genetic tree.
I like how you made that jump, but I don't think anyone followed you. So many to many. Yeah? We're going to talk about that mañana. For those that don't know Spanish, it means mañana. Yeah? Tomorrow. Cool. Any questions on this so far? So why do we care about this? It's because if we can talk about it in English and we can create the association in code in the similar way that now I can ask the school for all its students, I can get attributes of that student. I've created that relationship. Right? I don't have to hard code within school one each one of these students. I don't have to do like your boy and then I also, in this array, right, I don't have to do your boy, but in this array, for some reason, I also can put like 30 and homeless, right? And then now in like this second item within the array, I have the attributes of your boy. That would get really crazy. I'd have to hard code it everywhere. If I change something in the student.new your boy, I would also have to go into this and change it here. I have to change it in every single place I call it. Whereas if I establish the relationship, and let's just say I put instance of student, and I put dot name, and I reassign it from your boy to Gary, now it's changed everywhere because the relationship is established. Yeah, cool. Any questions on any of this so far?
I did a slight one, which is that maybe this is just too because the examples are just didactic and explaining here, it's not really necessary. But like, let's say a person has, like going back to the bank example, there's like multiple bank accounts at like one bank, which is like an institution. But is that a bit different than say a person like writing multiple books, right? And then there's like actual physical different books that are contained in like unless they're contained in the library and are contained in the bank thing. So is there anything like that in actual coding, or is that just from the examples?
Is there anything like that in real coding? You mean, can I write the code for it, or does that actually exist somewhere currently right now today?
Is that an important distinction to make when thinking about these concepts?
Yes, it is an important distinction to make, right? Whenever you talk about more models, because you just introduced the concept of library, right, which is another model, right? Within the domain of like books, checking out books, or like borrowing a book, reading a book, right? The domain modeling, right? Just the abstract idea. The models, book, author, library, you know what I'm saying? Then the relationship one-to-many, author can write many books, books belong to an author. This is all like a little bit clearer. Doesn't have to be rock steady, just the concepts. Yeah? Cool, let's take a 2-minute break, and then we'll just start jamming out writing code. Hey, so where we left off, right? We went over self. We talked about instance methods being called on instances, having access to instance variables. Classes calling class methods, having access to class variables, right? We made some test data, and we made this test instance method that we kind of just used to explain a concept of how instances can call instance methods, right? And what it is that they do, right? So what we want to do now is we want to actually establish a relationship. So what is this? This is a book, right? Is there anything else we need for book right now? Like, we have access to all the books. So far, so good, right? We should probably build out the other model in case we forgot about it, right? In order to establish a relationship, both models must exist. Cool. So what's the other one? Boom. Nice. So let's do it. How do I do this? Very good. Nice. And what else? If you want the really cool, because I know you love this, DFI. Define, initialize. Yeah, you guys love this. All right, cool. What arguments do we want? Name? Anything else? Yeah, name's good. Right? Question. And then how do we have access to name? The attribute name. How do we get access? Are we ever going to want to change the person's name? Maybe. Oh, I spelled it wrong the first time. Cool. Question so far? No. So let's do this. Let's test. Ah. Boom. Does anyone know why I put the binding on the bottom? Right. I put it at the end because I want to make sure that, that the binding pauses after I've defined all my code. So, good example of that. Oh, that's right. I'm zoomed in. A good example of that would be, let's find out. So how do I run that? Cool. So I'm at the binding, right? Does author exist? Can I make a new author? And what's the name? So creative. Let's come up with some cool names, right? Princess Acorn. Nice. Acorn? That didn't work out as well as I wanted it. All right, cool. And then how do I do this? How do I get that return value? Cool. Just want to teach you guys some awesome stuff, right?
You
Author
just press underscore enter or underscore anything, or just once you press underscore, it's understood.
underscore, and then I have to finish the command, so I actually hit the return carriage. But underscore must be left alone, right? So can I get the name? Cool. Can I reassign it to what?
Yes.
Yeah? Nice. Right? Any questions? Boom. Boom, boom, boom. A1 equals, right? Boom, boom. 2, 3. Any cool author names? Like, we have any pen names? Cool, Montel Jordan. Just so you get to know a little bit more about who I am, right? Who else? Reverend.
Green.
Not sure.
Reverend no shop. Shop.
Yeah, Reverend Run. That's what we're gonna go with, all right? Reverend Run. Anyone? Huh? There was a reality show about him and his family, because that's what he's known for. Very good. Nice. So if I were to go into my pry and I would have access to A1, what's going on? Why are these not? So for anyone that has questions, pry will pause your code right here. Thank you. No, that's cool. I was just like, pry will pause. You're like, yeah. You're like that guy in the audience. You're like the best for like improv comedy, right? Like if someone's talking, you're like, whoa, Michigan! And you're like the one person in the audience from Michigan. All right. So it's just going to pause your code right here. So in order to have access to it, I need to put it at the bottom, right? So it'll pause after
How do you have to go down?
command, control, up and down. Great question. I know you love those shortcuts. Sweet. All right, so now I have access to A1, A2, yeah? 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 I'm waiting for that one, like,
Yeah.
there it is, I need you. All right, awesome. So what if I wanted access to all the author instances? I want access to all of them. How do I do that? What's the first thing I need to do? Now you're getting it. Oh yeah, to hash? If I wanted to, but array is probably a little more better, right? And then what do I need to do?
Push the self to the class variable.
Push self to the class variable. Yeah? Yeah?
Add it all.
What great pseudocode, right? So, and then you want to push self, yeah? Any questions on this? All right, so can I just do this? Can I just be like, oh, bet, let me just get that getter method real quick? No, it's going to assume that it's some sort of instance variable. So I have to create manually the class, right? And it's just all like this, right? Why self first? Self is going to refer to the class here in this instance, all right? Boom, 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 a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Is that good?
Yes. No, you need one more end.
Is that good?
No.
Cool. Just make sure, yeah? A little bit of space there.
Yeah.
Cool. Love it. All right. So I don't make fun of people's code. I don't do that. But this will bother me. Yeah? As it should bother you. Because it's just grossly unreadable in the long run. So just wanted to point that out, right? Cool. Any questions so far? So what's the next thing we do? After I write some code, I should all over it. Sped it out. Cool. And how do I test that one method that I wrote? That class method. Do I call it on the instance? Or what do I call it on? Money. There it is. The 3 most related people on the planet. Yeah?
Yeah.
Any questions so far? Cool. So can I do author.all.first?
Yes.
Why? Right. Because what is this? So I have access to now the array methods. Yeah? So how do I get this person's name? Yeah?
No, it can't.
Will it?
Oh, yeah, you can.
You sure?
You have access.
That's why we test. Right? So now I have access to this instance and this name. Right? Do I have access to book? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? Cool. The answer is no. Right? Why though?
It's a different file you didn't load.
It's a different file. I didn't load it.
You could require it.
I could require it, right? But why would I want to put in this author file, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, bloop, the book? Why would I do that? That's weird. Right. So instead, what I could do is I could do something real smart, right? And I can just make some sort of like combo file, right? Where I'm going to combine all of the files in there. Yeah? Just for like humor's sake, I'm going to call it combo. But what you normally might see it as is run or runner. So I'm just going to call it that. I like saying combo because it combines all the files. But run is normally how you'll see it because it's going to run all of your code. Yeah? Cool. So now we're in this run file, yeah? Run. And what's the first thing I need to do? Require pry, that's right, because we make mistakes, yeah? What's the next thing I need to do? How do I get access to author and book? Right? So I need access to the other files, right? Right? Is that not how you spell other? Cool. And how do I do that? I require book, just like this. So what's the difference between require and require relative? So here's something. I'm sorry. This is like an Evansism, right? I love that some of you think ahead and that you know where I want to go, and that's awesome. Just answer the question though. What's the difference between require and relative?
Is relative going to be in the same directory?
Anyone know? That's a pretty good guess. So require relative is saying, I want access to this file relative to this path. Right? So what you normally will see is this. Probably this too. That's like the full version. Right? So who can tell me what this sweet dot does? It means current directory, right? So in theory, if I were to do new folder, that was weird, right? And I would be like, I don't know, something like tools, right? And then I had one of these files inside tools, right? I had book inside tools. Let's just do it, right? How would I get book from run? dot/tools/books.rb. That's what you're saying. Who agrees and who doesn't agree?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, like Gladiator, like, not sure what you're saying. All right, who thinks that that's correct? Who thinks that's different? Who thinks it needs to be changed? Okay, if for those that think it needs to change, why does it need to change?
Require relative, or you assume that you're speaking relative, right?
Require relative is always going to refer to the file that it's written in. So right now, it's relative to this run file. Right? So where is this?
It's not.
What is current directory? Yes, it's in one-to-many. That's how I check, right? Like, is it in this folder? All right, so run is right here, in one-to-many. That's the current directory. All right? Is there a folder called tools in current directory?
Yes.
And then in tools, is there a file called book?
Yes.
So this is the correct path. Check.
I see sometimes you have two dots, like
Yeah.
this, two dots.
It's a previous record.
Hmm?
Sorry, I was answering minutes.
Okay. So why is it sometimes two dots?
Previous record.
Previous.
So let me ask you this. Oh, I'm zoomed in. Look up. All right. What is dot here? Right? So if I want to change directory into current directory, what happens?
You would stay.
Nothing. If I change directory, two dots, what does this mean? Go back one, yeah? I'm not going to do it so then you can't see my file structure. It's all a mystery. Keep the magic alive for you. All right? What's in here? So, in my run file, right, what current directory is run in? It's in this folder. All right? If I go 2 up, where would I go? I'd go out of this directory. I'd go up out of this directory. Do I want to go up out of this directory? No, I want to just be in this directory and go into tools. So I want to be in this current directory into tools.
So if you had run in tools and the other two just in the regular first folder, you would just be ./bookRB.
I'm sorry, say again?
If you had run in the tools folder instead of book, would your path be ./bookRB?
So you want book in this and you want run in here.
Yeah.
All right. And now, relative to run, I want book. Right? Where would you put? What would dot dot bring me to? And then now what do I want? Just kidding. Look up. Yeah? Cool. How can I test this? I'm gonna drop a binding. You guys are awesome. So if I want to run this now, right? I want to run Ruby. Where am I going? Run? Just like this? Why is tab not work for me? I need to go tools, yeah? And then what? Cool. So what do I have in here? Maybe? Do I have author? Do I have B1? B2? Are they in pajamas and are they coming down the stairs? Bananas in pajamas. Hello, B1. They would just talk to each other. They were really weird.
Question.
Yeah?
Okay, I understand apply relative. And when would you, besides apply pride, in what case would you use acquire? Just
Yes, very good question. When we learn about gems, I'll teach you more about require.
so would acquire not work in the situation?
Require will not work in this situation, no. But good question.
Are we on the, sorry,
Require hits like something known as like global if you don't have like a gem lock file. It hits all your gems, and I'll explain that more later.
So basically, require relative just allows you to use the documentation.
No. Require relative says I want to import a file, and I want every single line of that file, and this is where I can find it, relative to this current file.
Yeah.
So if I were to write in here, in my book, and I wanted to require, for whatever reason, I needed access to, I needed access to run. Where would I go? I hear you. I'm ignoring you. Why do I not need RB? Because Ruby knows Ruby, right?
But you can just put it, right?
I could. You know? It's a waste of 3 characters. Dry. Cool. Any questions on this? Any questions on like require relative and the path, because it will be very important later. You don't have to memorize it, just understand like kind of where your current directory is and if I'm trying to grab files from other folders and structures, yeah? Yeah? Sure.
Can you use require with a full file path?
Can you use require with the full fire path?
You don't know where your file is going to be put on somebody's computer because you know where the file is going to access resides. It's a system file.
That is a very good question, and what I will tell you is Ruby has built-in methods that will allow you to do something called a global search on directories, and you can pull files from anywhere in the computer. Yep, dir.glob, glob. Yep, good question. We don't have to get into that. I will deploy a lab for you that's like really spicy in that. If anyone can figure it out, I'd be very impressed. Any other questions on just require relative and like the access that's happening? All right, cool. Let's get rid of this. Gone. All right, I'm just gonna leave it in tools.rb so you can see it. You'll be familiar. Live it, love it, learn it. Code. Flatiron School, something like that, right? What else? What else do we need besides book? Right, Roger. Anything else?
Should we remove the binding up right in the other?
You mean like this? Gone. I don't even know no old James. Cool. Cool, cool. So, does it make sense to keep all of my like test data in like separate files that like are kind of difficult to find? Where would I want to put them? In my combo file, right? Before or after the binding? Cool. You guys are smart. Oop. Oop. Cool. Nice. Any questions on why I did that? Is it going to make a difference? Will it make a difference? Performance-wise, no. But visually, for readability, for you to see everything all at once, this is the better way. If I left them in those files, it will not matter because what does require relative actually do? It will literally read every line in this file and paste it right in here. Yeah? So like if I didn't want to write these, what I could do, I don't know why you'd want to, I'd literally Control X and then just paste it right here. If I wanted to get rid of this. That's not like good practice though, you know. So boop. Just can't throw that back in there. Boop. Oh no! Oh no! It's gone! Oh no! God damn. Is it really gone? Ooh! That'd been rough. Be careful with Control X. It's very danger. Yeah? Very danger. I used to work at a pizza shop. They were Albanian and they taught me a lot. Like very danger. It's Albanian for very danger. So, any questions on this? Require relative, how I got here, why this is here, and why the binding is specifically after all the test data.
Why don't you put that RB for
Say again?
After book, we need .rb.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Cool. All right, awesome. So now that I have access to like everything, right? So book and author both exist here in this magical world of run, right? What do we say books and authors a relationship is? One to many, right? This right here, what class is this in? Right. So if I were to talk about books and authors in the big girl, big boy Ruby words, has many belongs to, what is book and author? Book blank author.
Any books belong to an author.
If I had to use has many or belongs to, if I were to say book blank author, book has many authors or book belongs to author? Okay, book belongs to author. Anytime it belongs to, right, that's the one that gets the other object. It's going to make more sense. I'm going to say something like foreign key. Just tuck that away a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So if a book belongs to an author, the author must exist within the book. Right? If the book belongs to an author, the author must exist in the book. Yeah, it takes a little bit. It's cool. So, what was I doing before in my test data? Oh, damn, spectacle. What was I doing? I'm having a book, right? And what am I doing with these authors? Oops, oof. Oof, oof, oof. What am I doing with these authors? What are these?
Strings.
Strings. Do I want to be in string land? I want to be object land. How do I pass these authors in to books? Can I just do this? Look up. Look up. Look up. Look up.
Could you? Probably.
I don't know. Should I?
Yes.
Money. Let's do that. All right, cool. So let's do it, right? So what is B2? What is B2's author? It's an object. And what is B2's author's name? So now I have a relationship, right? Yeah, it's a little complicated. I don't know if we're getting married or anything, but that's maybe in the future. But now I can call in this book, I can call in the author, and now I have access to the author instance. Right? Does that make sense? So whereas before, where it was a string and I called .name, it's going to say, hey, I don't understand that .name method for this string. And that's how I establish relationships, right? I need to be sure I'm passing in this instance. In the same way that just being like a ugly refactor, I could do this. So what does this look like to you? An instance, another instance? Can objects make objects? Cool. Right? Conceptually, you get that? Who does not understand why I passed in this object instead of the string? And what the magical powers it allows me to do? Who understood that? Huh?
I got it.
Money. Cool. So now, I'm an author, right? For whatever reason, and I'm crazy, I want to write a new book, I guess. I don't know. How would I do that? Right? Write book. Cool. I want to write a new book, right? What would I do? How would I don't know, create a new book? How would I do that? What's just like the thought process here? Cool. And what does a book.new need? A title, right? So if I'm going to write a new book, I probably am going to come up with some sort of title, right? I need to know the title of the book I'm going to write. So what am I going to put? Title, right? And what's the next parameter? An author. But who's the author here? Oh, that's me. And how many pages? Who knows? I'll probably what? I'll probably want the pages too, right? 500? Just kidding. Over 9,000, right? Just kidding. That's hard coding, right? Pages, and I'm just going to pass in pages. Yeah? Questions? If you are falling asleep, a really good way to not fall asleep, and this is really hard to do, is falling asleep standing up. So if you're just falling asleep, either you can just enjoy the nap, or you can try standing. It's your call. But either way, this is what I would do if I wanted to write a new book, right? I'd make a book.new. You got a question?
I am very tired, but my question is, what do we need to do the acts and such for the title pages, or is that just sort of not necessary?
Let's see how this works out. Yeah? Let's just try it. Because the first thing I should do after I write some code, God, this class is so good. 100% pass rate. Cool. Nice. So what's my, what is it, author 1? And do I need author.writebook?
No,
Why?
because this is a class method.
I'm calling an instance method on class, right? That's after review. Right. I want A1, the author, right? The instance of the author can write books, right? Because that is a instance method on an instance. Instance method on instance, right? So what do I need to feed it? A title? Right? Best book ever. Oops. And how many pages it needs, right? 1. Why am I not putting in author here? How many arguments am I giving it?
Well, because you need self, so whatever the self that they want.
Yeah, and puts the instance.
Sweet.
But I get that.
Nice. So if I do book.all, will it be there? There it is. Princess Acorn wrote the best book ever. It is 1 page. That's how a good book should be. Just 1 pager, like resumes. Right? And that's how, and that is the relationship right there. I can have objects create objects, right? Because that just makes sense. When I first thought of this, right, I need to write a new book, right? The logic behind that is a new book must be created. An instance of book must be created. So I need to follow the parameters of book. But look, this is like really hard to follow. If I keep doing this, I can click, drag, what's this? I can see this, and now they're side by side, right? Just love these shortcuts. Yes, sir.
How come you didn't need to require a book?
Command slash, huh?
How come you didn't need to require a book?
Here?
That's fine. Yeah.
That's a very good question. The reason I don't need access to the book here is because I'm running it in my run file. I'm paused here, and book exists and author exists. If I did, in fact, do Ruby author.rb, and then I paused right here in the binding on 23, it would have no idea what book is. Right? Like if I did this, binding, try, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, cool. And then I did this, I tried to do Ruby author.rb, right? First I need a new author, so A1 equals to author.new. Boom. And who wrote this? Mike Mother Chang. Right? So A1 dot write book. Wrote book. Right? And what did you write, Mike? Just, you know, forget Professor Oak. You're the original. And how many pages is the Pokedex? 150 or more to see. Right? What's going to happen? Uninitialized constant. Within author, I'm doing something namespace book, and it doesn't exist. The constant book does not exist. Right? That's why all your test data should be in this run. So book and author both exist. So when I'm in this A1 and I call write new book, and I call on the book class exists in this file, in this binding on 18 in here, at this exact point in time, right now. Right? Does that answer your question? Awesome. Any questions? I thought you had something, but you're right. Yeah, it was a little late, but we'll work on it. Anything else? Cool. So now let's write some methods. Yeah, let's do that. What would make sense for MoBooks, right? Like if I was a author, right? What's just something I want to know about? Like maybe how many books I wrote. So let's figure that out, right? How many books did I, me, self? Right. All right, do you want me to leave this in there for you? Is that going to help you? Is that going to help? Is that going to help? Is that going to help?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Just waiting for that. All right. So what do we want to call this method? Right? Let's start thinking about this, right? Remember, author 1 dot what method is going to make sense to get all of the books that I wrote. Maybe something called like my books. So if I want to make a method called my books, I just make a method called
No, we wouldn't want self.
make a method called self.
No, that's all the
Self would be defined.
Self gives you all the books, right? So let's figure this out real quick, right? So I need to get all the books that I wrote. I need to get all the books, right? Need all them books though, right? And then what am I really checking to see if that author is me?
Author object is self.
Right? Like that's what I'm trying to do, right? So how do I get all the books? Whoa, it's all the books. Now I want to find out, I want to iterate through all of them, right? So what is book.all again? An array. So I have array methods available to me. And I want to go through all the books, right? So before we do anything else, what's like our favorite generic iterator? Each, right? So I could just do that for now, right? Because I don't know what iterator I need at this point, right? And how do we do this? How do we do this? Do, very good, right? And what are each of these? Let's just put X here because my last class loved it for some reason, right, John? I see this a lot. What is X?
Expect.
The meaning of life, yes. What is X? Anytime I put something in the blocks here, what am I referring to? That's very good. Each item within the array. If I'm going through every single book, every item in the array is a book object. Very good. All right? You don't have to put book object. I'm specifically specifying here, so you'll see it. But if you put book, which is like what you should do, it just reads well, right? But I'm going to leave it as book object, so when you look over these notes again, you'll understand that it's not a string, it's a noise. Cool, cool, cool. So in this book object, what are we doing? I don't know. Let's find out. How can I test? Cool. Do I want this before or after book object? Before? Who says before? Who says after? Cool. I'm going to tell you before. I always want this bad boy on line 25 and a half. Right? And the reason I want it is because let's just say I put, I don't know, book object, because K is near J. Right? And I'm foolish and I'm careless. If the binding was after, what would happen? it would error and it won't even hit the binding, won't even pause. It'll just go, have no idea, undefined method or variable, book object, and I'm like, cool, and I'm gonna bang my head against the wall, and I have no idea why. It's gonna be an extremely good use of my time, right? So let's zoom out, right? And now, how do I test this? First, I gotta get out of this session, yeah? Do I want to run author? Probably want that combo file. You know what I'm saying? Little combo action. Spicy, spicy. What am I? Oh no, I think I'm. Am I in that? I think I'm in binding for the other one. No, I'm not. Let's see. Huh. Anyways, cool. How do I? Oops. Get there. Why did this not hit?
There's a binding at the end. There's a binding at the end.
So, what binding will do is it will pause the execution of your code. When I ran this run, which let's just do this, yeah? Boom! I did it again. Oops. All right, so it read through everything in book. It read through everything in author. It made these instances for me, and then it paused. Yeah? Why did it not stop here when it was going through require relative of book? Because this method is not executing. Right? So just because I dropped the binding in it doesn't mean I'm going to hit it necessarily. I have to actually call the code to execute for it to pause. Check. So if I want to do that, what kind of method is this? Instance or class? And then what is this? An author? So, yep, author class. Was ahead of myself. So I need to call this on an instance of. I need to call this instance method on an instance of. Very good, right? So instance of author, right? My books. Yeah? Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Bet. So the first thing I do is if I want to make sure this is good, I run this. Oh, just kidding. Psych. All I did was copy and paste it in case you missed that. ICYMT LOL. I just said in case you missed that and saw the letters for it, and then I laughed out loud. LMAO. So I really want the book object, right? So I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. So what is book object? Cool. And what do I want to do? I want to see what? If that author of the book object, that author, right? Is it self? Is it me? Am I the author of this book? Right? Where is self coming from again? So, in this instance method, right, self takes on what? Self takes on the object that called it. So, in this method, right, my books, right, what is the object that called my books? A1. And A1 is what? Huh? Prince Acorn? This exact instance? Yeah? So, will this self, which, by the way, is this author, Prince Acorn, be equal to the author of this particular book object? Is this this?
Author name. Self name, sorry, self name, right?
Easy. Slow down, Turbo. Just answer the question. Is this author object the same as this author object, which is A1, which we talked about, which is very good. So what should return? Because I don't need to call on dot name. That's going to give me what? Yes, and that is a right. And versus what is this? An author object. And what is self? And what is self class? I'm comparing objects to objects, right? It's like apples to apples and pineapples to pineapples, which is like the normal next comparison. Yeah?
Yep.
Anyone get that? Who understood that? Who did not understand that? Awesome. So, all I'm doing is checking to see if that author object is equal to me, the author object. So that code is what I'm trying to do. Oh man, where is this thing? Cool. Right? Bam. Any questions on this? Did you see how this came from here? The pseudo code and this actual code. Who could not translate the pseudocode into code? Who can translate the pseudocode into the code? All right, now here's the most important piece. More important than that. Who can come up with the pseudocode? This is the most important piece. All right, I'm going to talk about the assessment here in a little bit. But what I care about is the fact that you can do this. What is your process? If I ask you a question, what pieces of information do I need and how do I manipulate that information? Do I have access to that information? And ultimately, can I meet my deliverable? All right? That is basically it for all development forever and ever. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions on that?
Sorry, could you just sit there?
No, please. Yes. I will say it again. Right?
I know it's simple.
No, it's good. It's
What
good.
info do I need? How do I get it? How do I use it?
Can I manipulate it, right? I need to know if you can do this. Yeah? So, let's try one more time, right? Just on something else, right? I want you all to help me with this. So, man, there's not a lot of attributes, right? Okay, let's try it. I want to know, right, all the books that I've written that are more than 50 pages long, right? So here's the question, right? It's like, my books, more than 50 pages long. That would be like the deliverable. Am I going like, is it okay? Okay. What do I need here? First, I need to name the method, right? So, how am I going to name this method, right? This is what it's trying to do. Remember, is this going to be an instance or a class method? Instance, class. Cool. So it's definitely going to be an instance method, right? And what is it going to look like? I'm going to have like author1, or like A1, right? Dot what? Sure, like my long books, right? Like my long, let's try to spell that right because that can go poorly. My long books, right? That's just like a method that makes sense. Unless there was a better name. There probably is a better name, but this one will do for now, right? Books, right? Cool. What do I need to do? What am I going to be looking through? Let's just think about this out loud, right? I need to find all of my books, right, that are more than 50 pages long, right? I need to go through all of my books to make sure they're more than 50 pages long.
You already have that function there.
Yes, Johnny, but let me see if anyone else.
Call my books function within my long books and then filter out.
Cool. So, who thinks that I should use my books here? All right. What would you use?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. What would you use?
I would use my books and then just at the end. So my books and then that each do and then just create a book object that they create.
Cool. So, what do we not do here that we definitely should have done? Yeah, we could do a lot of that really wild stuff, but remember, I wrote some code, so I should test it, right? So what does this actually return me? It's going to return the original array, right? Unfortunately. So how would I test this?
For the
Huh? I could drop a binding, right? But where would I drop the binding if I do?
After the each block.
Hmm?
After the each block.
After the each block. So right here. Do you want to drop the binding again?
After the end.
After the end? This end? This end?
The first.
This one. You want it here. You want the binding here. Here's what I would do. Ready? I'd just call the method and see what it gives me. Okay. Yep, that makes sense because it was definitely spelled wrong. Cool. All right, so how do I call this again? Huh? That what? YA1. It's an instance method. I have to call it on a. Cool. So what does it give me? Princess Acorn. It gives me all the books, apparently, not just my books. So, just because I see a return value here does not mean it's working properly, right? Just remember that. So, remember I told you about the iterators. The iterators are really important. What am I trying to do here? If someone could try to explain to me in like English, what am I trying to do with all the books?
Select.
Trying to make a new copy of the edited array, so you want just the ones that you made into an array.
Cool. So I would like a new array based on a certain condition. Right? The condition being, is the author of the particular book I'm iterating through me? That's the condition. So what does that sound like to you? Select. Right? Select will return you a new array based on a condition. Check. Please learn the difference, and we'll go over it in a different lecture if you really need it in a breakout session. The difference between map, each, find, select. Those are 4 really important ones that you will need. There are dozens and dozens more, but those 4 are really important. If you just start guessing at which one it is, you're going to have a bad time. If you want a pizza when you mean to French fry, you're going to have a bad time. You have a question?
Well, yeah, just because we thought that by plain English, like you're collecting a list of books that you wrote. So it just sounds like, it's going to be a collect.
Absolutely. Collect is really tricky. What I will tell you is, this is what I will tell you about collect from a Evans Wang personal diary of Ruby. Stop using collect. Collect is synonymous with a different method. Does anyone know what it is? It's map. So if they're exactly the same, use map. That's just what I would do personally. If you use collect, it is 100% correct. If you mean to use collect, it is not correct here because map and collect will, if you want to go through the docs, return a new array of mutated data. What that means is it will change the array based on what you feed it. So if I used collect, right, which I don't like to use, as you know, right, it will change it. The array will change to whatever is here. So for example, in the first item, right, the first book object, you're getting book 1, right? You're getting book 1. What does this evaluate to? True, right? Book 2, I think it actually evaluates to true as well. Let's find out. Yeah, book 2 will evaluate to true, right? Book 3 will evaluate to false, and book 4 will evaluate to false. If you use collect or map here, you will get a new array that says true, true, false, false. It mutated the data. It changed it and returned based on this condition. What you want is a new array that returns based on the condition, but you don't want to mutate the data. Right? Very important difference. So great question. Select is the right call.
So
Right?
Select also give you multiple elements. There's more than one condition that match, right?
Yes, select will give you more than one, right? Yes.
So just something that helped me with that was that you're mutating the array, so with the returning array is the same length as the original array. For some reason that helped me
Yes.
know when to use it, just because here we want the shorter array of just your books, so that wouldn't work because you're getting the same amount of books.
That is a good way to think about it, but that is not always 100% true,
Oh,
right? Like sometimes sometimes select will return the same amount if the condition is always true. So
I mean, like here.
that is a good piece of tidbit. Did everyone understand that? Did anyone want me to go over it? What he said? What he said was, map will always return the same length of the array because it's just mutating the data for each one of those objects, whereas select will actually return a new array based on the condition. So if the condition's only true 3 out of 5 times, the new array is only 3 objects. Yeah? Great. Great discussion. Anything else? Awesome. So now that we know that this is correct, right? Are we sure? We should just test it, right? Let's do that. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. Right? And just to make sure, I can do A2 dot. Cool. And that is, in fact, returning the data that I want it to return. Notice how I'm not relying on learn or rspec to make sure that my data is correct. I'm not just going to run learn, and when I get green lights, I'm like, cool, bet, done. I actually know what it's supposed to return, right? I actually know what it's supposed to return. And it is, in fact, returning what I believe it should be returning, and it is meeting the deliverables. Yeah? Awesome. So, let's do this last one, right? My books are more than 50 pages long. What do I need to be going through? I need to make sure that my books, right, are more than 50 pages long. So, yes?
You could use like a ternary operator.
No. If you don't know what ternary operators, don't worry. I will go over it at some other time or one-on-one. It's not for now.
So we want to iterate through my books.
All right, so I want to go through all of my books, right? I'm just going to put this in like little star action, right? Okay, and then what do I want to do? Right, so check if the pages are greater than 50, right? And then return a new list of those books that are over 50 pages. Not that. I don't know how that happened. Who does not understand? Okay, that backfired. This. Who understands this? Who feels just a little bit more comfortable being able to do this? Just this right here. All right, cool. So now we'll get practice translating to pseudocode, right? So do I want to do this? I want to go through all the books?
No.
What do I want to go through? My books, right? Cool. So that looks like what it's describing as a helper method, right? This method is helping me with this method. Very complicated logic. Just try to memorize that. It's a joke. So, my books, yeah? And what is my books? Is it a hash? Is it a fixed num? It's an array, so I have access to... Sweet. So do I need to call all on this? Okay. Just make sure you don't, yeah? All right, cool. I'm only pausing because I knew you were all itching to do it, right? So my books, right? I have array methods to it, right? Which one do I want to use right now? All right, let's just, if we don't know, we can just leave it blank for now. And what do we want to do with them, right? X? And what are we going through? What is my books? are they authors? Are they numbers? Are they other arrays? They're what? They're book objects, right?
Yeah.
So for each one of these books, right, what do I want to do? I want to access the pages, right, that are in here. Because remember, in this book object, I have author, I have name, and I have an attribute called pages. All right? So this is going to return what value? A hash, a string, a number, a array, a what? A fixed num, right? Can I maybe do like this? Like a greater than on a fixed num? And what am I trying to check if it's greater than? 50. Cool. Yeah, tree 50, right? So what am I doing here? Why? I want a new array based on a certain condition. Right? So I just translated my pseudocode, which is the most important piece, into regular code. And then I need to just, what? Git, add, commit, run rspec, run learn, wait for green lights, and then just let it fly? I need to test it, right? So I will test, and then I'll finally leave you be, right? I know you down to do labs. Cool. So do I just do this? Author.mylongbooks? Okay, cool. How do I do it? Dot. Cool. And what should I get? All right. We need to understand what we're doing, right? All right. I'm just going to do this. Bloop. Fail. Fail. Cool. So which books written by author 1, because that's what I'm calling it on, are more than 50 pages? Both, right? Is my test data any good, though? No, right? But let's just see if what it returns. Cool. How can I make sure it's actually working? I might want to shorten Ready Player One, because actually no, Ready Player One was a good book. The Art of War probably condensed it a little bit.
It's a short book.
It's a short book. I can make a new book, right? I can make a new book, but I'm just going to do this instead. Both work, all right? So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, up, a little bit up again, all right? And now I should just get one. But I want to make sure that my books still return both. So that's how I know that it's actually working, all right? Not because of RSpec, not because green light's on learn, all right? Any questions on that whatsoever? Any questions on one-to-many relationships? Class, class variables, class methods. Instance, instance variables, instance methods. Self. Yes, very good. Yeah, I can't answer those for you.
Thought we were going to cover one true.
Okay, so there's a concept called single source of truth, right? And that means that everything about the author, right, the author knows about. Everything about the book knows about. So I don't want to put attributes of book into my author, right? It will make more sense in the many-to-many, but that's just the whole concept behind it, right? Like, just because this author wrote a book that was 49 pages, I'm not going to put, like, you know, book 49 pages or something like that as like another attribute of this author. The book knows about the book, and the author knows about the author, but there is an established relationship between the models within the domain that have access to that information. Yeah? Cool. That's all I got for you today.